wonder why. Weight so heavy to unify. Peer pressure leaves behind a sour taste. The parts of you that they want replaced. So lifespan with bricks and mortar. Man's ambition has no quarter. Black mask and titan fury. Says the acts make the line run blurry. I know, you know, who knows why. It's do or die. Cool crimson compromise. Fire burning eye to eye.
Right, today on the podcast I have a very interesting guest. He's a magician from Dublin. His name is Davey McAuley. Davey, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
It's nice to see you. I think we actually only maybe met in person like twice.
I think so, yeah. It was quite a while ago as well.
And our common bond in the midst that was Club Hell was Limp Bizkit.
That's our guilty pleasure, isn't it?
Yeah. I got the $3 bill actually tattooed there on my arm.
Ah, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I actually got to see them a couple of years ago live. It was probably the best gig I've ever seen. It was amazing.
Was that in the Olympia?
No, it was over at the Donington Festival, Download.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, the crowd was insane, so it was good, yeah.
I seen them 3 times. I seen them twice in Dublin in the Olympia, and they were really good shows. And I seen them the first time I went to Rock am Ring 2009, really, really good as well.
Cool.
Because they were the closing band after just after they got back together with Wes. And it was fucking brilliant, man.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, cool. Yeah, they were one of those bands that, like, I don't know, for me, like, they were kind of the band that actually got me into music, because I was right around, I don't know, I guess I was like 11 or 12 when they kind of hit the mainstream.
Yeah, same as me.
And I got the Chocolate Starfish album, and that was it, you know, so. And it was all thanks to The Undertaker playing, it was all rolling and stuff like that got the whole thing going, so.
I remember, like, because I was around that age as well. I was 11 or 12, and my mum and dad wanted me to write out the Christmas list. So I had to put down on the Christmas list chocolate starfish and the hot dog flavored water. and they went to a music shop with this on a piece of paper, and they got it anyway.
Yeah, nice, cool. Yeah, what a great band.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
So in terms of magic for yourself, when did you start doing it, and how did it come about? You're doing it.
So, like, I've kind of always done it, but I guess I was actually at a funeral when I was about 13, and like the afters, like where everyone's just sitting around or whatever. My uncle actually just started doing like these card tricks. I guess he was trying to cheer the kids up or whatever, and I don't know. I just took to it. I thought it was cool, and then I kind of just went from there. And then I started doing little card tricks and small little packet things, little magic tricks you'd buy and stuff. And I just did that all through my teenagers. And then it was kind of, when I went over to the States then for the first time, that was kind of when I got heavily into it, and that's where it all changed, So it was quite young. Yeah, but realistically, I probably was about 18, 19 before I really start doing anything that was, on a larger scale. So yeah, no, it's been but nearly coming up to about 20 years now in a year or two. So yeah, feels been a while, So yeah.
And when you first start doing it, like, were you copying kind of what your uncle showed you, and then how did it transition from that to coming up with your own kind of things?
Yeah, so coming up with my own stuff, that was years later. That was a lot. Like, I mean, I'll tell you, at the time, David Blaine was the big guy on television. And I was absolutely obsessed with him. He was like, for me, he was the main thing. So I was kind of trying to do all the type of stuff that he was doing. And obviously even like the internet, although it existed, it wasn't as easy to just, there was no YouTube. You couldn't just find stuff. So I was getting books from like the local library, or, everybody's uncle or dad or whatever knows a little coin trick or something. So I was kind of just learning that. And then magic's kind of interesting because it's kind of like music. Like, if you learn a guitar, once you learn all the basic chords, you can then start to write your own songs. Magic's pretty similar. If you learn all the basic techniques, you can then learn to come up with your own, like they say there's only about 7 magic tricks in the world, and everything's just a variation of one of those. So it's like, if you vanish a coin, or if you're David Copperfield vanishing the Statue of Liberty, the trick itself is something has disappeared, even though it's, you know what I mean? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So kind of just gets to that point. So yeah, I don't think I actually started properly creating like stuff that I was performing professionally until I was like nearly like mid-20s. Mm-hmm. So it was a long time before I had stuff that I felt was good enough to go out there. So it's And then now I like my own shows now would all be my own material. Now when I say that, none of it's like covered, but I mean, magic is it's kind of like comedy in the sense that you'll hear people telling jokes and then you'll hear kind of a variation of that joke. Magic's very similar in that sense that you kind of get a lot of ideas from other magicians and work off kind of things like that.
You've done a ton of gigs. Is there any for you that stand out, say, right, that was my favorite gig ever?
You know, the thing with gigs is kind of like especially at the moment, the last couple of years, the shows have just been seen as the show is there, it's the same. It's kind of got to a point where it's on point every single night. So at this point, they're kind of all just melting into one. But I think years ago, when you're like trying to do it, when you're learning it, they were the more kind of creative gigs, I guess, trying to do stuff. I actually, for moments that I like remember, I much prefer things that aren't formal. So I've just actually seen it today as a Facebook memory or whatever. We were in Africa 3 years ago today, and we'd done the show like 2 nights before, and we were in Senegal, and we were traveling through. We felt really unsafe. It didn't feel like a safe place to be at all. And we met these guys, and they took us to this local pub. And these guys like barely spoke English, but they were all really skeptical of magic. But like by the end of it, they gave us these like African suits, and they were like, we were hanging out. So like things like that would definitely be more memorable, where it's little moments of actually seeing people. And so yeah, it's more like that than actual shows. The shows themselves, I love doing them, but you kind of see them as this is the show. It's kind of like doing a play every night or whatever, so which prefer to small clubs and bars and things.
In terms of the show itself, what does it involve generally?
So at the moment, so here's the thing. Magic, again, much like music, when I made the comparison with the guitar, it's the same with genres. So the way you have rock and metal and country and pop or whatever, people don't realize this because it's not as mainstream, but with magic, it's very much the same. So you've got different genres of magic. You've got like the mind reading guys, then you've got the big illusion making girls disappear, then you've got the guys that are kind of doing the close-up stuff. So the thing that I did was I tried to meet kind of the best people in each of these fields, and I tried to combine them all into one show. So I do find it hard to brand the show itself. It's largely a mix of everything. So the first 10-15 minutes is a mixture of mind reading and hypnosis with the whole audience. So your mind read, like it's every person in the room. You're interacting with all of them. They're all doing stuff. I do a hypnosis thing with everybody in the room. Then it moves into a bit more kind of comedy magic. Just it's a bit more lighthearted. And then it finishes with an escape routine. And the reason that I've had to do it is because I largely work on cruise lines at the moment. The audience that are coming to see the show, they're not coming to see me. They're coming to see a show. So I can't, like if you're like, the Darren Browns or whoever, if you're going to see the mind reading show, that's all you're going to see is mind reading. That's fine because you've wanted to see that. But what I'm doing is I'm playing to a generic audience. So I have to hit if I do mind reading for an hour, the people who don't like mind reading, they're bored. Or if I do the comedy stuff and the people, so I have to balance it. Which I've actually really enjoyed. I think it's kind of a nice mix because you hear a lot of people say, oh, I don't like magic. But I think what they actually mean is they don't like a certain type of magic, So a lot of people think it's just pulling rabbits out of hats, but then they see something completely different, like blowing fireballs, and suddenly they like, So, yeah.
It's kind of like a band that go into a pub and they have to kind of please everyone and do different genres, is what you're saying, really.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So unless you ever get to the point where people are specifically coming to see you, then you can do whatever you want. But I think when you're performing on the wilds, you have to play to everybody. That's the main thing. Yeah.
Have you any funny stories about things that have happened during shows?
Oh, yeah. Have I got any? Yeah. Can I tell them? Probably not. Yeah, I can tell these stories because I'm not going to mention anybody or any place or anything, so it'll be okay.
Okay.
I close my show with a Straightjacket Escape. So basically I go looking kind of for the biggest guy in the audience. I get him to tie me up and, So there was this one guy and he really didn't want to come on stage. And magicians are very selective about who they choose. There's techniques of how to know who to choose, but there's also techniques of how to know if somebody isn't comfortable with coming on stage. So to give you the example, if I put my hand out like this, someone I say, will you join me on stage? If they give me their hand palm upwards, so in other words, like in my hand like this, I know that they don't want to do this. They're not feeling comfortable. But if they give me their hand palm down, I know they're happy out. I can also tell by the way people who look away don't necessarily not want to help. Sometimes they're just shy, but they kind of do. So this one guy I went over to and I was like, oh, will you help me out? And he kind of gave me the like, nah, I don't want to, but not in any kind of protesting way. So I said to him, no, come on, help out. So he comes up on stage and he's there tying the straitjacket. But anyway, after the show, he told me he was on medication, which gave him really loose bowel movements. So like the whole time he's standing there like dreading it. So things like this happen all the time. And the problem is, you know, they say, well, professionally you practice and practice, but there's things like that you just you can't rehearse for. I remember a couple of years ago, I was asked to do a family show. I mainly just perform for adults, not like in a bad way, like, but I don't seem to get many gigs for kids. It's all usually adults and stuff. So I was doing a family show for a festival, and it was during the summer, so it was festival season. And one of the routines, it's a comedy bit where I make the kid a balloon dog. So I blow up a balloon and make him a dog. And then I build this connection with the audience, with the kids, and I'm saying how I give the dog a name and all this kind of. And then there's a couple of jokes with the dog. And to cut a long story short, I end up killing the dog. I pop him, right? And all the kids are now like shocked, and everyone's like, oh, you know. And anyway, I put him into a little paper bag. The kid who's on stage helps out, says some magic words, and suddenly the dog is back alive, and the kid takes the dog, and everybody's happy, and you know, it's a great bit. I was after coming from. Oh, spoiler alert! There's another dog in the bag. Okay, so I was after coming from another festival before it, and I was rushing to get to this one. Right. And right before going on stage, I completely forgot to put another dog in the bag because I'd used the dog for the last show. So there's about maybe, I don't know, like 1,000 people at this festival all watching this show, this little kid. And here's me with this balloon dog being like, oh, and here's Spuddy and blah, blah, blah. And the kids are all emotionally attached. And then I burst them and then I put him in the bag. And I realized as I opened the bag, I'm like, shit, there's no dog in the bag. So I'm left standing there in front of 1,000 people with this kid looking at me as if to say like, you know, where's my dog? So yeah, things just go horrible on stage sometimes. And sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. Like most of the time you've got to cover. But, you know, when things like that do go wrong, I was doing a corporate event one time and there was like suddenly like hundreds of kids at it. I didn't realize it was a family corporate event. Yeah. So I remember I had this illusion. I don't even know if I have it with me to show. It's a guillotine, but for an arm. You put an arm in and it chops your arm. Yeah. And I'd never used it. I just had it. I thought it looked cool. So I decided that, I'll bring it out because, you know, corporate event, whatever. So I decided I was going to get one of the kids to help out, and I'd be like, you know, get the kid up, make him the hero of the show. And as I'm like choosing the kid, I'm like, this kid, I turn around to take the guillotine thing out, and I see this kid walking towards me. Now remember, this is an illusion where I'm going to chop his arm off, okay? Yeah. I see him walking towards me. The kid has no arm, right? Oh, Jesus. So I'm just left standing there. Now, very fortunately, I didn't take the machine out yet, but it's like, how out of like 300 kids, how did I pick the one, you know? So it would have been fine if it had been an adult, because let's be straight, that would have been hilarious, because you could have been like, oh look, you know, don't worry, this time it'll work, you know. But obviously with a kid you can't, because you don't know what happened to the kid or whatever. And so yeah, things just go wrong, and there's no way of rehearsing for that kind of stuff, you know.
What did you do when that happened?
I didn't do the trick. I changed it. I brought out another thing which I hadn't planned on doing, and it all went. Nobody noticed, nothing. Unfortunately, nobody realized or anything. But yeah, but it's one of those moments where you just can't. You couldn't write this stuff, like, you know. It's absolutely it's insane. But
that is mad.
Yeah, and it was the first time I'd ever done it. It was the only time I'd ever done it. Never did it again.
It's jinxed.
Yeah, that's what it was. So I have it somewhere. I don't even know where it is. I think it's out in we have a big shed at the back full of stuff, but I don't know. So yeah. But things like that just happen, man. There's nothing you can do.
I have a quote here from the Hard Rock Corporation. They said that you're the most unique act that they have ever seen. What work did you do for them?
They probably don't mean that in a good way.
Well,
the Hard Rock's a funny one. So as well as doing magic, I actually play with a band. I play bass for a band called The Dying Breed. We're the Hard Rock Dublin. We're their local band. But before that, I do all of their events. So if they have like any kind of, they do all these battle of bands, they do like any kind of, we actually did a thing a couple of years ago, which was for breast cancer awareness during October. So we did a show every Thursday night of October. They used to have a big area in the back, and I can't remember how much it raised a couple of grand, but it all went to breast cancer awareness. So they obviously just put it like that. But I had to laugh when they said that to me, because I was kind of more like, I really appreciate you guys saying that, but I'm pretty sure you haven't had many other acts in here. Like, so, you know, but yeah, that's a cool place. So the band still plays there. Well, not at the moment because of COVID, but pre-COVID, they play there pretty much whenever I'm home. We do a gig there. So yeah, so that was kind of Hard Rock's thing of it.
And then when I was doing my online research, I found a little story about the WWE. Well, it was kind of that you'd done an event for WWE, but there wasn't really any stuff to it. Like there was I couldn't find anything about it. So
yeah, this is the problem with online, man. I don't like. Yeah. I was only telling my friends the other day, I was like, I think my brain is like the equivalent of like Windows 98. Like I kind of like shut off from technology. Like I wasn't, you know. That's another guy who was making a video, and he was like talking about gigs and stuff, and he was asking about the people who had done magic for that were famous, like just celebrities and stuff. So we were just talking about different people, and I was telling about the couple of people that I'd been booked to do, or like they had come to shows or that kind of thing. And the WWE came up. So, but this is going back years. Like I'm talking, we must be talking close to like 15 years ago, I guess, probably 13 years ago. It was right around the time when, the SmackDown roster was like, who was the big guys at the time? I guess like Eddie Guerrero was still there. Chris Benoit.
Yeah, I think that would have been around probably 2004, probably, was it?
Yeah, probably a little later, because I'm probably a little bit older. But anyway, to cut a long story short, the hotel where they were staying, which I won't go into all that because obviously they probably don't want to know people where they stay. But,
I know, the Clarion.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know if we could say that. So the hotel they were staying.
All the wrestling fans know, it's fine.
Yeah, okay, that's good. At least I wasn't blamed for it. Yeah. So one thing led to another, and it was like it started off like we were chatting with the Big Show was there, John Cena, The Undertaker, the whole lot of them, and it ended up just being a case of like showing one of them a trick, and then being like, "Hey, look at this," and before we knew it, like we were outside till I think like 4 a.m. in the morning having a smoke with Jeff Hardy or something. Like it was really cool. It was because I was a big fan like growing up and stuff, and the guys were cool. They all signed everything that you know. I remember JBL at the time, though. This was my only negative thing. Like, the guys were really cool. You had to give them a lot of respect because all day, all you saw was people asking for autographs and photographs. And
people swarm that hotel, man.
Yeah, and they do it, though. Like, that's the cool part is they really do it for everyone. I remember a little kid, and I mean, this kid must have been like, I don't know, 7, 8. And he had this big poster, and it said, like, JBL, best wrestler ever, blah, blah, blah. And JBL gets out of his taxi coming into the hotel, and the kid's standing there, and everyone's like, "Oh, can I get a photo?" Whatever. And he's like, "No, we won't do it." He's probably playing the heel character. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
This little kid runs up and he's like, "Will you sign my poster?" And he just looks at the kid and walks off. And we were all like the poor kid. Like, fair enough. All the adults that were there, you're like, "Yeah, whatever, get over it." But like that kid was like standing there with his homemade poster. Yeah, it was pretty cool though. And I remember at one point then the Big Show. I was doing a card trick for him, and it was a trick where like you put one card in his fingers and you've got another card, and I swear to God, man, that guy's hands were just like I've never seen hands that size in my life. Like cards look like, you know those little cards you get in the Christmas cracker, like the top, it looked like one of those in his hand. Like it was just massive. So yeah, that was pretty cool. That was a good time. And then as I said, Chris Benoit was there and Eddie Guerrero and stuff. That was sad, and it was really cool though, you know. And then I think Tori Wilson was there at the time. She was doing it too. And I think Tori Wilson. I 100% know she was there. I was like, delighted. So yeah, no, that was a good time. It's cool. But yeah, that was a long time ago. But it wasn't like, it was just purely a bit of a luck thing, and then it just kind of spread and escalated.
Yeah, but it's a great story though.
Yeah, it was good fun. It was pretty cool, especially at the time, because I think that was a nice point where I don't watch a lot. I don't really get to watch TV at all much anymore. But at the time, that was like an amazing lineup they had at that point. It was really strong. Like, it was cool. So that was a pretty cool time to be around for it.
We fast forward a bit to 2016 and the bungee jump and the straightjacket. What brought that idea about in Holland? And did you put a lot of planning into that?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, some things. Yeah, what happened was there's this woman who lives in the Netherlands. She's from Arizona, and she has a record label. And basically, she owns Friendly Folk Records, and she had this band who I met her in Dublin, and then she flew me over to open for a band because they were releasing a show called It's a Feckin' Freak Show. They're this Dutch band that do all Irish rock music. So they asked me to open it up as a freak show performer. So I went over and did that. And then they were doing a European route, and they asked me to open on the Dublin leg. They did 4 or 5 nights around Ireland. And so I did the whole thing. They brought a whole tour bus over. So we're sitting on the bus, and it's 1 late, and everyone's just sitting around having a whiskey. Like, it's informal night kind of thing. And Kathy, who's the manager, I'm talking to her, and I'm explaining how it was Harry Houdini, it was his 90th anniversary since he died. And I was like, I would really love to do the trick where he hangs upside down by his ankles and escapes from a straitjacket. Because I was already doing the straitjacket escape, but I was like, I'd love to get a crane, hang upside down, and do it. And it's really hard to find anywhere that will insure you to do that. Really, really.
I can imagine.
And then, let alone, it's very hard to find a crane company that will let you hire a crane to hang upside. Like, it's one of those stupid things. But anyway, I wanted to do it. And Kathy is great for being really persistent. Like, she will make stuff happen. So I guess a couple of months later, I was working out on a cruise line, and I got a call off Kathy, and she was like, I've got you a crane. And I was like, for what? And she's like, for the thing. And I was like, you're kidding me. She's like, no. She's like, it's up in like the north of the Netherlands, and they have this international fireworks festival. So she's like, I've got a crane for the festival. I was like, oh, amazing. She's like, yeah, but it's a bungee jump crane. You have to bungee jump while doing it. So I was like, yeah, whatever, let's do it. Like, that sounds great. So I was like, when is it? And she was like, it's Friday. And I think I was in Iceland on the Thursday. So I had to fly home from Reykjavik in Iceland to Dublin. I got home at 1, 2 a.m. Like, shot home, packed for this thing, got up the next morning at 6, 7 a.m. and then flew to the Netherlands and went and did that. Got off the plane, got to the hotel. We went straight down to the pier, and she's like, there's the crane. And I'm like, holy shit, this is big. Like, this was a lot bigger than I thought. This was 200 feet, whatever. I was picturing, kind of like a little cherry picker crane. This was a proper thing. So we were like, yeah, let's do it. So what happened was, it was supposed to be at the end of the night. It was supposed to be the big highlight thing. But the winds picked up too fast. So we got a text off the guys who were they had a whole safety team and stuff. And they were like, we have to do it in the next 20 minutes. Otherwise the winds will be too strong and we can't, it's too dangerous to do it. So we kind of got rushed into it, which was good because it didn't give me too much time to overthink it. So yeah, it was pretty cool. And then they had 6 people who were the safety and strapped me in and all that kind of stuff. So there's one woman who's she's doing my ankle support. She's talking away and she's telling me how long she's been doing bungee jumps and so on. And then I said to her, I was like, would you do this? And she's like, no. I'm like, why? And she's like, I just wouldn't like the idea of doing it without having hands. And I was like, well, what do you mean? So then she tells me, now this is, by the way, I'm in the straitjacket, right? I'm strapped up. I have no way out at this point. I'm standing in a crane that's about to lift up 200 feet, ready to go. And she says, well, it's just really important when you get to the top that you jump away from the crane, because normally you would just go straight down. But what can happen is when you come straight down on the rebound, the bungee cord can actually act as a noose, and it's happened to people where it loops so people can get their head caught in it, and it's actually hungry.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so what they do is when you're bungeeing, they tell you if you see the cord come near you, you just push it away from you. So it's whatever. But because I wouldn't have any hands, that was her concern. So she was like, that's my worry. You won't be able to do anything. But she told me this like minutes before going up, and I was like, why would you tell me this now? Like, you should have just left me. So, but it was lucky because she told me as long as I jumped away from the crane, the angle of coming back would be. So if you ever actually see the video, it's not to look cool that I'm like leaping off the thing. I'm genuinely terrified, and I'm like trying to jump as far as I can away. Yeah, so it was. I remember coming home after that, and someone was talking, and they were like, "Oh my god, that was like brave or whatever." I was like, "If you saw the video in the crane, there's one of the guys, and he's promised me he'll never put it online. One of the guys that came up with me has a GoPro from the crane, and like I'm probably like this. I'm praying to a god I don't even believe in. I'm just like so scared. I'm just like, you know, I'm praying to some higher power. I don't even believe in this shit. I'm just like, oh, you know." So it was, but it was pretty cool. It was good fun, and I actually didn't tell anyone I was doing it, because I don't know. I think I was afraid someone was going to tell me not to. So I only told one guy who's like my best friend. I told him only on the very off chance something happened that he would know what was up. So everybody else just kind of found out about it by the video or yeah. So, and then the funny part was part of the contract was after doing the jump, like an hour or two later, whatever it was, I had to do a show at the festival. So it was a show because the show was supposed to happen and then the jump, because they reversed it, I still had to do the show. So obviously we finished this thing, and it was like the first time it had ever been done. Like, so it was a big, you know. So me and all the guys that were there, well, we naturally just went straight for a beer to celebrate. Like, so I ended up going on to the festival stage after having a couple of beers and doing like, you know, a very slightly drunk show. But no, all in all, it was cool. It was a lot of fun, and Kathy at the Friendly Folk, she ordered the whole thing, so that was really good.
But I'd say you felt like the pressure was off. Maybe it kind of worked in your favor that was first, and then you could kind of, because you knew your show, like you couldn't prepare for the bungee really.
True, yeah. And I think even at that point, like, not like, I don't mean I didn't care, but I was kind of just like, yeah, like you say, it was just kind of enjoying the rest of the day now, you know. And you always do better shows when you're enjoying it. Like, you can see that with any performer. You can see if they're enjoying the show, it's always a better show. Whereas, like, Axl Rose is a prime example. Like, you see him walk on stage pissed off and the show's crap and he walks home. Whereas, you know what I mean? You see the nights where he's dancing around. It's always the best. So, yeah. So, yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. What's your experience of the Ripleys, believe it or not, in New York?
Yeah, so what that is I didn't actually realize how many people didn't know what Ripley's was over this side of the world. It used to be a television show. You remember the Ripleys? Yeah. And it was kind of like Guinness World Records, but it wasn't necessarily records. It was just crazy, unbelievable stuff. And yeah, there's a museum in Times Square in New York. I think it's the biggest one in the States. They've loads of them everywhere. But yeah, I ended up working there. And the people that work there, they're the coolest people in the world. But it's all kind of like freaks and weirdos and like sword swallowers and fire breathers. And so that's kind of where I got into doing all the kind of more circus carnival style of magic. That was another one of the genres we were talking about. So before then, everything I did was very kind of like mind reading and cards and coins. And then that was kind of a whole new thing, which I think you kind of not necessarily have to, but I think the States is very big into that. Whereas like if you look at magic, I think this side of the world is way more into like mind reading, like Darren Brown, this kind of thing. But that side of the world, you know, sword swallowers and walking on broken glass. So that was pretty cool. That brought a whole new edge to it. And obviously performing in Times Square, it's always good because you have a full house every night kind of thing. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then got to learn loads of stuff that I probably wouldn't have ever learned otherwise. You know, there was things like taking a meat hook and putting it in your nose and it comes out your mouth and all this. So yeah, it was good fun. And then all these guys I used to work with who were really cool, they all had like these great carny names. There was like a guy called Jelly Boy the Clown who was he was like this kind of like scary clown guy. He was cool. And then there was another guy called Albert Cadabra who was a great magician. He used to hammer like 6-inch nails into his nose and stuff. Yeah, no, we had another guy. He was a drummer, but he had no arms. He just had hands grown, and he was a drummer, and it was just unbelievable. It was just really, really cool. And at the time, I was trying to learn this stuff. Obviously not the drumming arms, but I mean like nails and stuff. And I think in a good way, I thought because I was working with so many people that were doing it, I just assumed it was a lot easier to do than it is. So I was like, I'm going to learn this. So I spent like the guts of a year learning to like blow fire and swallow swords and all this kind of thing. But then I realized like a couple of years later, it was really dangerous because it's very dangerous stuff. But the reason that there was so many of them was Ripley's actually scout those people out. Like, I think there's 90 something sword swallowers on the planet. And I think 38 of them or something work for Ripley. So it's, you know, they specifically go looking for them. But it was definitely a cool place to work because, you know, even then I got to like meet a lot of cool people because I remember the guitar player for Meatloaf came down one day and he was with his daughter and he was like chatting away. And I got him tickets to go into the show, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't know who he was. And he came back out and he started talking and we got chatting. And then he was talking about music. And then I found out he was the guitar player for Meatloaf. And then he gave me his card or something. And he was like, oh, you know, we'll chat, blah, 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 blah. But I never called him because I don't like Meatloaf. So I was really embarrassed. Because I was embarrassed to hang out because when he was like Meatloaf, I was like, oh, yeah, cool. That's great, you know, as you would. But then I was just like, oh, I really don't like Meatloaf at all. Like, I mean, I like their hits, but, you know. So, yeah, I think if I had been like, I don't know, Paul Stanley or something, I'd have been all over it. But yeah.
Or Fred Durst.
Fred Durst, yeah. So it was cool. But yeah, even like, I don't know if you remember, you know, Barbara Windsor and stuff. Like, she was there with Magic and stuff. So it's kind of nice to meet. You got to meet a lot of cool people. I mean, she didn't work there or anything. She was going to see a Broadway show and just stop by and stuff. But because the thing is right on Broadway, it was such a weird place because everybody there is like, you just see all these crazy people all the time outside. It's cool. I think Patrick Stewart was doing a show across the street and it was just, that was a cool place. Yeah. I'm not sure if they do the live shows anymore though. I think I haven't been there in about 2 years or something. The last time I was in New York, I didn't go in, but I think the live shows, I think they've stopped doing them, which is a shame because for me, that was the heart of the whole. And now it's a museum. You go around and see a lot of stuff. And, yeah. So,
I think I seem to remember you practicing and doing the old fire breathing in Club Hell one night, or else I had too much to drink.
Yeah, that was a certain Emmett Cleary.
a great man.
Yeah, absolutely. Emmett, I don't know what it is about Emmett. He always has me just doing some crazy stuff. Emmett's like, every time at Club Hell, it was just one of those great bars that was like the little hidden secret of Dublin, you know. I don't know how that came up because I just remember one day, I really don't know because normally probably, I don't know, I'm not too sure. Me and Emmett will just hang out and talk and then we'll come up with some crazy idea and it just works, you know. He was the type of guy that would put a bouncy castle in a nightclub. He's amazing.
I think that when all this is said and done and COVID is over, I think there's an old gap in the market for a few special Club Hell nights to celebrate.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, 100% I would be there. Definitely.
We'll get a petition going.
Yeah, he actually we used to do carnival nights in there as well. I don't know if you remember. It was like
was it a Monday night? Yeah.
You know what? I can't remember. I actually have a big huge poster signed by all the guys somewhere there. But yeah, it was just great. We'd set up like these carnival games and just like balloons going everywhere, and it was just cheap drinks, and that was really cool.
He always puts on great nights, in fairness to him.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah. Funny enough, when you say about like my favorite gigs, I actually would prefer to work a night in Club Hell, I think, than work anywhere else in the world. It's just for the, like, there's a lot to be said about like earnings versus fun you have. You know what I mean? I think fun you have goes through the roof. Club Hell, what a great spot. Yeah.
It's all to do with the crowd. Like, without the crowd, like, you know, people are just so chilled. Like, and like I was going there for years and years, man. I never seen trouble in there once.
No, it really wasn't. No, it was a sweet spot. Yeah. And then it was like overnight, it just boomed. It was just like packed every night. It was amazing. Yeah.
I have a question here from someone anonymous that wants to remain anonymous, but you're probably going to know who it is.
Okay.
What can you tell us about the dirty old town, Amsterdam?
That's Andrew Johnston, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't know what this is. That's all I was told.
Brilliant. I don't know if we should.
Maybe use it with hypothetical characters, maybe. I don't know.
So there was these two guys, right?
Yeah.
Nah, it's nothing like you think. I think when people hear Amsterdam, they think all bad stuff. It's nothing bad. Yeah, so that certain Mr. Anonymous Gelston, he there's the Amsterdam Magic Show, which is on the first Monday of every month, I think. And I remember gigging at that and stuff. And Amsterdam just became a great spot to work. It was just cool, and the street performing scene is great and stuff. So I ended up making a lot of friends over there and stuff. So I go over quite a bit. So I feel like this story isn't. I don't think I should tell this story. This is it's not even. Long story short, we went and bought wooden bamboo flutes because we thought it'd be funny, right? So we did.
Yeah.
And then I was teaching them how to play Dirty Old Town on the wooden bamboo flute. And then we were talking about street performing and how, like, you know, yeah, you can just busk and make money. And he was like, oh, we should go just for the fun of it and see, can we even, if we get 1 cent, that's a success. Just to see, will anybody give us money for playing a wooden bamboo flute? And we didn't do it. And then a couple of beers later, we were like hanging out, and we were coming out of a bar called the Luxor, which is right in the red light district. It's like a little rock and roll bar. And he thinks it'd be funny to start playing there. So he's like, blah, 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 blah. And then he's right outside these windows, you know?
Oh, yes.
And he's just playing a wooden flute. And next minute, this guy comes out of an apartment and dumps a bucket of water off from the top, like straight out on top of us. It was, you know, I don't want to go into it too much. It was just one of those nights like the Hangover movie where the next day we were just like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, no, it was great. Amsterdam's a really cool spot. And that Amsterdam Magic Show, that's well worth seeing if you're ever over there. It's different magicians every month.
I haven't been there in a long time now. It's about 3 years, but I have been there 7 times. So I quite enjoy that city.
And speaking of Ripleys, they have a Ripleys, believe it or not, there now as well.
All right,
so,
yeah. That must be new, is it?
Yeah, I think like probably the last 3-4 years maybe. It's right down on the damn square beside Madame Tussauds and all that kind of stuff. That's the great place to catch street performers as well.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, I seen guys dress up as Freddy Krueger there and different things like that. And I actually quite enjoyed a dungeon over there. Yeah,
the Amsterdam dungeon is brilliant. Really cool.
Yeah, because I've been there and I've been to the London one as well. I think they're both really cool. There's a few more on the list. I think there's one in Edinburgh and a few other places that I'd like to visit. One in Berlin.
Yeah, there's actually, you know what? I don't know if there's still one in Dublin. It's not the Dublin Dungeons, but there's a thing called, is it called the Vaults or something like that? I guess.
Okay.
It's up by, you know where the Brazen Head is? It's like up that way, somewhere up there. But check, I think it's called the Vaults. Whether it's still there, it was there last year, the year before, and it's a very similar idea. Like it's a huge, massive production thing, but they never seem to advertise. I don't know what. I just went.
Yeah. I only lived up the road from there, like in my last year and a half in Dublin. I never even heard about it.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I'm not sure, but it was worth seeing. It was all like Irish characters, Dracula and stuff like that, which is cool. And then obviously the other thing is, you've heard of the Castle Dracula over in Clontarf? That's one of Dublin's best kept secrets. It's right by, you know, Westwood there in Clontarf, the big gym. At the back of it, they've built this like an artificial castle, but I mean they've put like millions of euro into it. It's amazing, and it's all just Castle Dracula because the guy who wrote Dracula, Bram Stoker, he lived across the street. So
yeah, I learned that on the Dublin Ghost Bus tour.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah. That's another one. Yeah, it's really cool. There's a whole like a magic show at it and all that kind of thing, and yeah, no, it is. It's really cool. There's the magic show is very good, like really good. The guy that does it's really cool. I worked with him 2 years ago, I think, on it, and we kind of come up with a bit of consultation ideas. But yeah, that's definitely worth seeing. Really cool show. Yeah. Obviously, it's closed at the moment, but I'm assuming, hopefully, like Halloween or whatever. Yeah,
there'll be lots of things to do. Hopefully, when things get back to normal.
Yeah, hopefully so.
In terms for yourself, then, to wrap up, what's your plans for the future?
I got a couple of things going. I've been trying to write 1 minute of a show every day lockdown. Now I haven't succeeded. Like to write 1 minute it's pretty hard. So I'm trying to do that. So I have 2 new shows coming at the moment, which I'm hoping they're going to be gone as soon as lockdown ends. And I also am applying for a skydiving license. So I want to do another stunt similar to the bungee jump, but it's going to be jumping out of a plane this time. So I'm thinking along the lines of, I won't give too much away, but kind of like an escape where you're shackled and chained, but you've also got a parachute in your back. So you're thrown out of a plane and you have to escape in time to pull the parachute, basically.
Fucking hell.
I think that's the future one. That's where it's looking, you know?
Yeah. Are you going to try do that over here or?
We'll see how insurance goes because
it's probably not going to be over here, I'd imagine.
Yeah, they don't really want. I don't know. They're very they don't really like doing anything too wild.
Yeah.
You know, at least other countries you just sign a waiver and they're like, yeah, go for it.
You might get a nice trip to Amsterdam out of it again.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Netherlands thing. Yeah, I know down in the Algarve in Portugal, I jumped out of a plane down there, and I think that's the highest you can jump in Europe. So
wow.
Yeah, they bring you up. It's about 18 or 19,000 feet or something. So that's definitely worth doing. So maybe somewhere down there might be nice.
You'll have more time then. The higher it is, the more time you have, I guess.
Yeah, that's thinking. Before you know, it'll be like the guy jumping out of space with a Red Bull thing, you know.
It was great to chat up with you, man. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for your time.
Cool. Hopefully I'll see you around when lockdown ends.
Yeah, I'll see you in Club Hell when Emma gets it back.
Did you hear that, Emma Cleary? Get that place back open.
If you enjoy the content on our channel, we'd appreciate a subscription. Thank you.